Stop scrolling. Listen, not with your ears, with your soul. Because what you're going through right now isn't random. It isn't meaningless. And it isn't punishment. It's a test. A test you were chosen for. A test others couldn't survive. A test that doesn't come to those living average, soft, forgettable lives. You are being tested for a crown others will never carry. And I know that crown feels far away. I know you've been walking through fire, fighting battles you never signed up for, carrying weights that break most people in half. You've cried in silence, felt abandoned by everyone, even by God. You've had to pretend you're okay just to function. And still you get up, still you move forward, still something inside you refuses to die. That something, that's the seed of your crown. See, most people are not called to carry greatness, because most people won't survive the pressure it takes to wear. They love the idea of destiny, but they collapse under the discipline required to step into it. They want the crown, but not the crushing that comes before it. Not you. You were built different. You were built for legacy, built for leadership, built to walk through hell and still speak heaven. That's why it's been so hard. That's why the attacks have been so specific, why the betrayal hit so deep, why the silence has lasted so long. Because this isn't just about success. It's about who you're becoming. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry a weight most people would collapse under. God isn't just testing your strength, He's testing your capacity, your patience, your character, your obedience. Because where He's taking you, not everyone can go. Not everyone can handle the altitude. Not everyone can breathe at the level you're being called to live. So yes, it's heavy. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's lonely. But if you're still standing, still believing, still walking, even with a limp, then let me tell you, you're not losing, you're becoming. And when the time is right, when heaven sees that you no longer bow to fear, no longer chase validation, no longer compromise your calling for comfort, then the crown that's been set aside for you will be placed on your head, and it will fit perfectly. Not because you asked for it, but because you were forged for it, in fire, in isolation, in the shadows where no one clapped and no one cared, except God. So do not fold, do not curse this process. Do not envy the ones who took shortcuts. They weren't being tested like you. They weren't being raised like you. They weren't called like you. Because you're not just building a life, you're building a legacy. You're not just chasing a goal, you're stepping into a mantle. And that mantle requires a different level of sacrifice, a different kind of silence, a deeper level of trust. You're being tested for a crown, not a costume, not applause, not likes, but kingdom responsibility, divine stewardship, spiritual authority. So rise like you know what you're carrying, pray like you know who's watching, walk like the crown is already waiting, because it is, and soon, everyone who doubted you, everyone who walked away, everyone who laughed at your silence, they'll see the crown, but they'll never know the cost, they'll never understand the pressure, because that test was custom made for you, and only you could pass it, because only you were chosen to carry what's coming. So now I ask you, will you let this test define you, or will you let it refine you? Will you fold under the weight of your assignment? Or will you rise and claim the crown? Because this is no longer about whether you're worthy. It's about whether you're ready, and heaven is waiting for your answer. There is a moment in every chosen soul's journey where heaven goes silent. The signs stop, the answers vanish. The doors don't open, and the voices around you begin to question what you once felt so sure about. And in that terrifying quiet, you are left with only one thing: faith. Not the kind of faith you speak of when things are going well. No, this is the faith forged in fire. The faith that keeps you standing when everything inside you is breaking. The faith that makes no sense but keeps moving anyway. You cry out, and the sky doesn't answer. You knock, and the door doesn't budge. You wait, but the light doesn't return. That's not punishment. That's preparation. That's not absence. That's alignment. God is not ignoring you. He's watching who you become when nothing is being said. For the true test is never in what you do when you hear God. It is in what you do when you hear nothing. When the miracles stall and the motivation dies, will you fold? Will you abandon what you once claimed you were called to do? Or will you evolve into someone who no longer needs signs to keep going, who no longer needs applause to act, who no longer needs reassurance to obey? Understand this: every legend you've admired, every warrior of destiny, passed through the wilderness of silence. Every chosen one walked alone before they walked in power, and what they did in that silence shaped everything that followed. Most people beg God to speak again, not realizing that the silence is the speech. It is not empty, it is instructional. It asks, will you still move? Even when you don't feel moved? Will you still pray? Even when you feel unheard? Will you still believe? Even when belief is not rewarded? You say you want elevation, but how can you be raised if you're not willing to sit in the low place without breaking? God is not trying to discourage you. He is chiseling the parts of you that cannot hold the future you ask for. He is exposing every weak belief, every fragile dream, every conditional prayer you whispered only when it felt good. If it dies in silence, it was never strong enough to survive the weight of your calling. Let this silence do what it was sent to do. Burn away the dependence, destroy the need for praise, eliminate the addiction to outcome. When you can walk with no reward in sight, when you can act with no audience in view, when you can believe with no reason to believe, that is when God knows you are ready. Because then and only then are you not being led by feelings but by faith. And faith is the currency of heaven. God does not reward the loudest, the fastest, or the most talented. He rewards the faithful. And sometimes the only way to reveal faith is to remove every sign that says you're on the right path. So evolve. Stop waiting for the voice to return before you start walking. Become the type of person who can walk through silence and still echo with purpose. Most will fold here, most will quit and call it wisdom. Most will turn around and blame it on timing. But not you. You were not chosen to be comfortable. You were chosen to carry power. And power is not handed out. It is forged in the fire of loneliness, in the stillness of waiting, in the discipline of movement with no motivation. God is not silent because he's absent. He's silent because the test is active. Will you pass, or will you fold under the pressure of needing to be constantly fed to move forward? The strongest warriors are those who trained in silence, bled in private, and never needed the world to understand them before they acted. That is who you must now become, because what's coming is greater than what's gone, but only if you are greater than who you used to be. So walk, even if no one claps. Believe, even if nothing shifts. Move, even if the path stays dark. God is watching, not speaking, and what you do now will echo in your future.